Well, welcome to Staff Chat. In this series, we are interviewing staff members here at Christian Family Chapel to learn a little bit more about them and a little bit about their journey of coming to CFC. Thanks for joining us. We're glad you're here for a chat. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. Really excited. We have Matt Collins with us today, who is our worship pastor. We get to hear a little bit about his story of coming to Christian Family Chapel. So welcome, Matt.
I'm glad to be here.
Thanks for being here.
Of course.
Now, usually you get to be, you're in the auditorium, but not here in the studio.
Yeah, new experience. I only see it on TV later on in the week. So, no, this is great. I'm glad to do it.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you and get to chat with you. So we're going to get started on your story, but we'll rewind a little bit to get to know a little bit about kiddo Matt. So when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I was 100% going to be a Major League Baseball player.
Oh, really?
Yeah, loved baseball, played it a bunch. So I was going to do that until I wasn't good enough to make the high school team. So then I realized maybe it's not really going to be an MLB team. No, but yeah, I loved sports. I was going to do, I would have done baseball, and even growing up, kind of wanted to stay in that realm, even when I went to college and stuff. But yeah, that was pretty much it. I would have told you that at any point as a kid, baseball player.
And who was your team as a kid?
Oh, the Braves. Yep, I would watch the Braves with my dad. My grandpa watched it every night. It was on TBS growing up, always watched the Braves.
Did you go to a lot of games?
No, maybe once or twice. No, maybe once a year.
Okay.
Once I got older, like my dad would go often with some of the guys in this fire department. They would take a trip. So once I got old enough to go, I got to go with them once and a couple other times, but good memories. Yeah.
That's so fun. But you didn't grow up here in Jacksonville.
No, I grew up in Orlando area, just outside of Orlando, Apopka, Florida.
Apopka. I've been to Apopka.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's
No, I'm just kidding. No, it was a great place to grow up. It was cool. My dad was a fireman there for 30 years.
Nice.
So he's retired now. So yeah, I grew up around the fire department, climbing on the trucks, hanging out with the guys. It was fun.
Did you ever want to be a firefighter growing up around that?
That's funny. I don't think I ever really did. I really liked being around it, but I never thought I would or could. I don't know what it was. I never really aspired to that, but I loved being there.
That just wasn't your passion.
They ate good.
No doubt.
For sure. So that, no, that was a lot of fun. Just wasn't my passion,
Maybe that's where you got your interest in food, though.
I guess so. Yeah. My dad always cooking all the time. Lots of the firemen were cooking all the time. Love it.
That's awesome. That's a fun way to grow up, an interesting childhood to be around the fire department, those trucks and just all that equipment all the time.
Yeah, kids
as a
would
kid.
go have birthday parties there and stuff. I got to do
Really?
every 3 or 4 days a week, I'd go have dinner there or whatever it seemed like whenever my dad was on or go visit. So I was a lucky kid.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So you went from the dream of being the MLB baseball player. So how did you get connected with music?
Well, same thing. I played piano when I was young.
Okay.
I'd say it was a musical family. My dad played, even with some of the fire department guys, again, they would have a band and they would play all the time. Yep. And my brother learned drums when he was younger, and saxophone, and I played piano for several years when I was young, and then I played trumpet a little bit in high school. And then really at a church camp, 13 or 14 years old, maybe 13 years old or so, I learned how to play acoustic guitar at camp, and they taught us how to play a couple worship songs. And then when I came home, I just started playing guitar, and had one of the guys in my dad's band gave me a guitar and taught me some stuff, and then started a little band with my friend when I was 14 in 9th grade, and then played with my friend John. We started playing in his garage. He played drums. We played for probably 12 years or 13 years at that point. From then on, all through college.
So you guys stuck together that long. That's a long time.
Yeah, we wrote songs and just learned how to play together. I would say we were pretty good. We were never like great, because at one point, then I wanted to be an artist, sign a record deal and stuff. And we had fun and we had good songs, and we were a good little 3-piece band, but that wasn't in God's plan either. But I learned a lot.
Oh,
for sure.
No doubt. Playing with other people, different styles of music, and leadership, I'm sure, a little bit in there.
Yep, relational stuff. You got to get along with people, so.
And so at some point you landed in Gainesville as a Gator, right?
Yep, went to the University of Florida. I was going to be an athletic trainer. Remember the sports stuff I was doing, and really went 3.5 years or so of college on that track, and then realized that wasn't going to be my passion either. And the long hours and the I just remember my professor saying, "You really have to love this. You have to love this. You have to love this." And every time they'd say that, I'm like, "Do I love this? I don't know if I love this. Do I want to do this?" So, but I did finish out and got my degree. And at that point, we were playing in the band a bunch. I was playing a bunch of kind of gigs myself, just to help pay for college. And we were writing songs as a band and trying to get signed and all this stuff, So that was all kind of happening right then too. And then once I graduated college, I was playing 5 or 6 nights a week and making a living doing music, and loved it. So, and then I would do that for about 15 more years. Through getting married, having kids. So it was I never complained about that job because I was playing music, and it would get long. It'd be a lot of traveling sometimes, but I got to play music and sing songs and take care of my family. So I never complained about it. But I've been grateful to how the Lord's moved me on from that too.
So what did that transition look like, going from really being your self-employed, and so playing music full time, to then coming into ministry?
I was saved when I was about 12 years old and was active in the church, and even our band would play in our church and stuff, youth group and things like that. Went to college though, just really slowly kind of stopped walking with the Lord, and I was pursuing other things and all these things we've talked about. And when my wife and I moved back here to Jacksonville, you've heard the story sometimes. We were invited to a power club. Hadn't been invited in a church. I think it was on the fringe. We were just like, we need to get back. We need to get in a church, and we need to find a church. It'd be great to do that for our kids and all that. So anyway, we came to CFC and we loved it. And from that Sunday after power clubs, we never left after that. And so started to meet people at the church. Started a family group with some friends. I had met with Matt Russell, who was the worship pastor, several times. He knew I was a musician and I was doing it full time and all that. But for 2 or 3 years, we probably just had lunch every once in a while. He was always like, "You do this for a living. I'm not going to ask you to serve here until you're ready or if you want to." So long story short, there was a need that came up after a couple of years. I said, "Okay, I'll jump into that." And then whatever was needed for the band, whether it was sound or guitar or whatever, I started playing. And then 4 or 5 months in, I was like, I really like this, and I think I'm gonna stop playing my regular gigs on Wednesday nights so I can be here for rehearsal to be in the band. And so that was a step of faith,
like baby
take
step
away
there.
a gig.
Yeah.
But I was starting to find out that I was having so much more joy playing music as I was growing in my faith again, and doing it for the Lord. It was a great environment, and I was being led well. And so that joy started taking over, where I was looking forward to that every week instead of my gigs, and like, well, then maybe I'm not going to do so many late nights, Saturday nights, because that's an early Sunday morning. And so eventually just kind of my energy changed to serving the Lord with music. So it was really, that really changed the way I thought about music too, and writing and all that. And I guess I realized how tired I was of just like chasing after, Scripture says chasing after wind, it's like chasing after this dream. I'm like, I don't even know, this is probably not the dream for me. You know what I mean? And so I just found so much joy, satisfaction in serving, playing music for the Lord. It was great. I'm not sure if that answered your question.
Yeah, I think totally answered. Yes.
But then I also got to go on a mission trip, which was a pretty pivotal point. This was in 2015. So this is 14, sorry. So 4 years here at CFC, and we had, that's probably a whole nother podcast how that started. But we started a bluegrass band out of some of our worship team here to go to do a mission trip in Greece. And we went on that trip. It was a 2-week tour where we played soup kitchens and refugee camps and public parks and churches and all kinds of things like that, sharing the gospel through music. And I came back thinking, all right, this opened my eyes to something. And I remember meeting with Matt saying, I don't know what it is. I'm tired of playing gigs, in 5 years, I don't want to be doing gigs anymore. I think I want to be doing something in ministry. I don't know if it's missions or worship leading or what. And then he tells me, well, first of all, you don't need a 5-year plan. Like, God has a plan for you. Like, let's get that language out of what you're saying. It could be a year, it could be 10 years. God knows you don't need to make a plan. So I was like, that's good. That's a good admonishment. I'm like, all right, well, we'll see what happens. And he says, I'll give you some more responsibility and leading if you like. And I said, let's do it. And any other opportunities for missions come up, I wanted to do that. And that's kind of how I started leading worship, which was new for me. And I think it was maybe 6 or 8 months later, staff shakeups and things where Matt changed roles, and there was an opening for worship leader here, and CFC took a chance on me, and Matt had recommended that. Like, I think Matt might be ready to do that, and just stepped into that. Part-time at first. I think the church was like, let's see if this is okay, and let's see if this is okay
trial
for
run.
you. Yeah. And I just loved it right off the bat. It made me, there were some uncomfortable moments because I still don't like to talk in front of people. I'm like Doug in that way, I think, just in the talking between songs and helping lead people through prayer, all that was terrifying to me. So that was like that was a step of faith to kind of jump into a role now where I'm not just singing songs. I've known how to sing songs. God prepared me to sing songs for years and years and years. But now, and what I was appreciative of Matt too is kind of pointing to me to say, like, yeah, we're not just leading songs. We're a pastor's leading people. Mm-hmm. And so that was a kind of a mindset shift as well in terms of how do we lead. We're not just trying to lead songs. Like, anybody can lead a song. But the calling is to lead people through song. So
a new area of dependence.
Oh, for sure.
When it comes to doing the speaking part.
Yeah. And I still don't get it right all the time, but I'm more comfortable now. 9 years later, the Lord's done a work for sure there, I think.
Very cool story, how the Lord kind of slowly worked you into, and you can see how he was preparing you for something you had no idea.
Oh, no doubt. I would have never said as a kid or even in college that I would be on a church staff. I've never in my wildest dreams thought of that. So, but the Lord, he knew different, and like you said, he prepared me in ways that I didn't know he was preparing me for the role I have now. Even just being able to lead songs where I'm confident there, and he can work on me in the other areas. You know what I mean? And those years was like, I felt, anytime I started singing, I felt confident. And the other time I didn't, and it was, I learned to kind of depend on the Lord in those moments. And a side note, I've learned too that I need to depend on him where I'm comfortable too, because my confidence would come into singing, and it's easy to slip into, I got this. Lord, help me in a moment when I need to speak.
Help me over there, but I've got this.
I need you to help me right now, because you could take away my voice any minute, and I can never sing another song again. So
you've actually got a really cool story about that, where the Lord worked, where you didn't have a voice.
Yeah, that was maybe a year in or year or two in, still kind of early. I just remember we were doing 3 services on Sunday morning at the time. It was before our Thursday night service and all that. But I remember after the first service, I went to talk to somebody, and then nothing would come out, and it was just nothing. And I'm kind of panicking, and we're about 15 minutes between services, and too late to kind of do anything else. And I think there wasn't anyone on the band I was like, hey, just take over. So I said, it was literally, Lord, I can't speak right now. I need you to open my voice. And that was like 30 seconds before we were starting. And then
I make you sweat.
Hit this first chord, and I went to sing, and I had a full voice, and I sang for 20 minutes or whatever it was, got off the stage again, and couldn't talk again. It was that like stark of a difference. And it was just no doubt that the Lord just healed me for those 20 minutes, and then carried me through the next service as well. It's just, it was amazing.
Another reminder of dependence.
Yes, for sure. Like I said, he can take it away just as much as he gave it. So,
wow, that every time I hear that story, it's just such a cool reminder. Like you said, in that 20 minutes, he provided exactly what you needed.
Yep.
Not more, not less, exactly what you needed.
That's exactly right.
In the exact timing.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool.
Yep.
Just to hear your story of that transition. How would you say in the past year, the Lord has grown you personally?
I would say, so I started doing missions, with the Bluegrass Band, and we did 5 or 6 trips probably, and those were all rooted in my gifting, like leading songs, singing. It was just an extension of that. And so this past year, I've been on 2 mission trips this past year, first to India last summer and then Moldova this summer, where music wasn't the main function of what I was doing. And I would say the Lord really used me in that to be, one, to reveal, hey, I can use you in other ways than where I've naturally gifted you. And I was able to use some music at the kids camp in Moldova, but that was 10% of what we did.
That wasn't the primary.
Right. And I think he has just been teaching me that, my identity really isn't based on, and my usefulness is not based on just playing a guitar or piano and singing songs. I don't think he's calling me to not do that anymore. I think there's some revealing of gifting. Like, I will do it, Lord. I know you haven't used me here like teaching English to get, like, I feel ill-equipped and just not good at it. But the Lord used it, and I was like, well, Lord, if you need me to do it, I'll do that. But I don't think he's calling me to teach kids. I don't think he's gifted me there, but he's grown me in new dependence in that way, so it was just going and doing mission and doing whatever was asked, out of my comfort zone, and the Lord met me there as well. So I think that's what he's been working on, and the next trip we'll take later this year is music again, but I think I've learned a lot from the 2 where I wasn't depending on music, to almost open my eyes to more opportunities, even on the music trips. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think that's what I'd say in the last year. He's grown me. New dependence, new areas of serving, really.
It's always amazing how, regardless of where we are in maturity of our faith, that there's still areas for us to grow. And the Lord is going to continue to grow us and stretch us. And it's such a gift to be able to have those opportunities.
Because you experience the Lord differently when you depend on him in different ways, And when you're stretched to do that and you step out faithfully in an area that's uncomfortable, all of those moments, even here at CFC, whether it was like going to a family group, I wasn't really wanting to do that. My Lauren, my wife, kind of pushed us into that in a good way. Like, no, we need to do this. Every time that I'd say yes, where I started wanted to say no at first, everywhere I've said yes, God's met me there with sufficiency. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing now, 9 years later, doing ministry in a different way and being uncomfortable. I said yes to it, and Lord he gives sufficient grace and everything you need.
He's met you there.
Yeah. And then the more he does that, like Tony had talked about a couple weeks ago, the more God meets you in your need, the more all you have of him, and the more you want to know him, and the more you want to do what he says, and, experiences grace again. So it just kind of, it builds and builds. So that's where I feel like I'm at right now.
It's a great story. Great story of how the Lord's working.
Yeah.
I love that. So I know on these trips, you guys have had a lot of fun. So you talked about getting to play with kids and stuff.
Yep.
I'm sure you guys played some games.
We did.
We're going to play some games.
Okay.
All right. You ready?
Sure.
Welcome to game time.
I don't know. I will say yes.
Awesome. There you go. Step out in faith. All right. So I've got 2 choices for you.
Uh-huh.
The first game is called small, medium, or large.
Okay.
Where you get to pick, if you pick a small question, it's fairly easy to answer. Large question being more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Game number 2 is called Yikes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So you get to pick which game you want to play.
You're not going to tell me what yikes means?
No.
Okay. I guess we should do yikes. I don't know.
Why not? Let's do yikes.
Okay, sure.
All right. So I want to hear your yikes. What's your most embarrassing moment in ministry?
Oh man. Well, I've had a bunch of little ones where, I mean, there's always you start a song in the wrong key. The Sunday, just start singing in a different key than what I'm playing. That's always embarrassing. But there's moments like that. But I would say maybe it's not it was embarrassing, but it was more awkward, I would say.
That counts.
Yeah. There was a time at the end of one of the services a few years ago where we had planned, let me try to think if I get the details right. We had planned at the end, we're responding in song. The band is up. We're going to play most of our worship songs at the end, like 3 or 4 songs at the end. We'd played one earlier. And so during the first song, everyone's to get up row by row. We're going to come up. It was either to do communion or we were putting a piece of paper that we had written down. There was something we were getting up out of our seats to do. You go to the front and we do it, and then you come back to the middle aisle and go back to your seat, and we're going to finish worshiping.
Okay.
And so first couple rows do that. This is going good. Third or fourth row, at some point, I look up and our back doors to the auditorium are wide open, and the next row just comes around and they just walk right out the back.
Oh, they left.
And then so the next row comes and just follows them. So there's a mass exodus of everyone but the first couple rows, because they're singing and they don't see what's happening behind them. And
this is song 1 of how many?
Oh yeah, we have like 3 songs, like 15 more minutes. And so yes, by this time I knew what's happening. I have this vision of looking at Doug, and he's just going,
"Where are they going?"
He's just laughing, and he's like, "Well, that didn't go as planned, And so we were just watch it happen, and we get to the end of the song, and I look at the band, and I just say, "Okay, we're done." And I was like, "Okay, everyone." I mean, by this time, there's just the front 2 rows, and I'm embarrassed for them because I have no idea.
Oh, because they left from the back to the front.
Place, everyone behind it, the whole place is empty. The whole room is empty. So, okay, we're done. I guess we're going to be done now. Thanks for being here. And then the whole band just looking at each other like, what just happened? They all left. So that was pretty embarrassing, awkward. By the next service, I think we made sure to say, okay, let's all come back to our seat. We're going to worship for a few more minutes. So that's the first thing that comes to mind as most embarrassing in ministry. Now, I've played in a band before where I was doing a battle of the bands in college where our guitar player decides to jump off of the drum riser, but he jumped right onto me, knocking me off the stage. So I went from mid song to down on the floor. And, I don't know. We didn't win that battle of the bands. I don't know why. That was pretty embarrassing. Yeah.
Although that was a pretty cool move, so I could see them giving you points for that.
It may have been good if he didn't crash through the singer. But that was embarrassing. Not in ministry. No, I mean, I maybe it was just all the years of playing and making so many mistakes that, like, musically making a mistake, it just doesn't. I've just learned to let it go. Like, and most of the time I've learned to musically, you make mistakes. 2 or 3 people know you made a mistake.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's more obvious, but it's nothing worse than making more of it than it needs to be. One thing, it keeps you humble. Like, well, I'm not perfect. Mm-hmm. I'm not the best at doing what I do. So and that's obvious in moments. So kind of embrace some of that stuff and try not to get embarrassed by it, because I've just learned to not let it mean that much to me, to mess up. So
might as well laugh in the moment and enjoy the humor.
But there's definitely been awkward moments, and you just learn from that stuff. And a lot of times it comes from just communicating better. So I think we just didn't communicate well in the moment, and then before you know it, the room's empty. So we didn't want that to happen
kids' ministry is probably so happy all the kids get picked up early.
That's right. We're 15 minutes early.
Oh, that's so funny.
That wasn't too bad of a yikes. Okay, that's a fun game.
But it was funny. Like, yikes, they're all gone.
Yeah, it was weird.
That's funny. Well, thanks so much for sharing your story today.
Welcome.
Appreciate you coming to hang out and chat. And just thanks again for your story and being willing to open up and share how the Lord has grown you and is continuing to grow you.
Sure. Yeah. Praise the Lord.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us on the podcast today, guys.